Wednesday, November 11th, Tekamah-Herman students assembled in the auditorium in honor of Veterans Day. The Tekamah-Herman choir sang, directed by instructor Shelly Niewohner, and veteran Gene Chamberlain and veteran guest speaker Mike Blanc spoke about Veterans Day.
Germany and the Allied forces. And since that time, Armistice Day has had several different connotations, but today we celebrate that day as an honor to the living, whereas we celebrate Memorial Day as an honor to those who've been deceased. But this old man has spent a little time around. And looking back across, I'm going to disagree here a little bit on my political philosophy. In my Army training, we had a lot of training on economic, religious, as well as forms of government. And we settled America. Our ancestors have a place that was home and free and where we could live and work where we wanted to work and worship where we wanted to worship. But today, the greatest threat to that livelihood, to that government, to that form of life lurks on the horizon. And I don't think anybody knows or understands what the consequences could be should that ever come to pass. I'm sorry to bring it up, but this old man's been around long enough to see a lot of things, to do a lot of things. And let me tell you folks, I am worried. Armistice Day, we celebrate the living. We honor the living who have served and give thanks for their time and thanks for the sacrifices made by those who have returned and their families in the time of conflict preserved this livelihood which we hold so near and dear. And so, folks, I welcome you and thank you for being here to help us celebrate this glorious day. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. It is my pleasure today to introduce our guest speaker, and he is a retired Marine Corps Major, Mr. Mike Blanc. Please welcome him. Well, Gene gave a pretty thorough welcome to you all, and you might hear some of the same things repeated. Veterans Day originated as Armistice Day and marked the end of hostilities in World War I. And as Gene said, that occurred on the 11th hour, on the 11th day, and the 11th month in 1918. Therefore, this day is recognized on November 11th. In 1954, the 83rd Congress of the United States amended the Act of 1938 by removing armistice and replacing it with veterans. November 11th became a day to honor American veterans of all wars. Many people confuse Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Both holidays were established to recognize and honor men and women who have worn the uniform of the United States Armed Forces. Memorial Day was originally set aside as a day for remembering and honoring military personnel who died in the service of our country. While those who died are also remembered on Veterans Day, it is intended to thank and honor those who served honorable in the military, in wartime, or in peacetime. In fact, Veterans Day is largely intended to thank living veterans for their service, to acknowledge that their contribution to our national security are appreciated, and to underscore the fact that all those who served, not only those who died, have sacrificed and done their duty. Now, I'd like to take an opportunity to recognize all veterans in attendance here today. So, if you have been in the National Guard, would you please stand up and be recognized? Anybody in the National Guard? Anybody in the Air Force? If you were in the Air Force, would you please rise? Any veterans in the Air Force? We must have a lot of Army, Navy, and Marines here. Anybody in the Marine Corps, would you please rise? Hoorah! Veterans who served in the Navy. And veterans who have served in the Army. Out there might know them veterans as, I hate to say it, great-grandparents, grandparents, uncles, and maybe even some of you have older brothers and sisters that have volunteered to join our armed forces. Well, I'd like to give you some idea of how many veterans there are in our nation. And I'm going to need your help for that. And it's going to be a comparison, but I need to first start out with your help. So when I give the command, I want all the students from 7th grade through 12th grade to stand up in place. Now I'm going to give you a military command, and I want you to stand up in place as smartly as you can. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? Okay, now look around. Look around at your friends to your left and to your right, behind you, in front of you. You represent the population of the United States. By numbers, you represent the population of the United States. Please take your seat. Where are the 7th graders? I want only 3 of you to stand up. 3. Okay, I want the math teacher to stand up there too. No, I can't. Okay, 8th grade. No, keep standing. I want 3 in the 8th grade to stand up. We need help with math. Okay, only 3 of you. 3 of you. There we go, 3. I want 3 from the freshman class to stand up. Just 3. 1. Oh, we got more than that. Just 3. 3 from the sophomore class to stand up. 1. There's 3. Okay, we got too many. There's 3 here. 3 from the sophomore class. 3 from the junior class. Good. We got 3 over here. We got 4 over here. And I want 3 from the senior class to stand up. We are all done. Very good. Now look around. Now look around at who's standing up. These represent the number of veterans that are serving the United States at this present time. So compared to all of the students standing up, these are our veterans in the United States. It's amazing that the few numbers that we have for veterans. Okay, I'd like you to take your seat, please. Now, I want the biggest, well, I earlier said biggest tackle, but I want the biggest football player, guard or tackle, or if there's a bigger one than that, to come up here with me, please. Who's that? Oh, good. I saw him earlier in class. I was in Miss Highslip's class earlier today. Would those students please raise their hands that I spoke with today? Miss Highslip's class? Oh, there's more than that. Where are they? All right. Okay. This young gentleman here, as big and brawny as he is, represents the number, this is compared to all the students that stood up. This young gentleman represents the number of military persons on active duty today. One guy. One guy out of 220, one person out of 229, that's the ratio of active duty personnel to the population of the United States that are serving in the active forces today. One guy is going to protect all of you. Just one. That's the ratio. It's amazing what falls on the shoulders of our veterans. Take your seat, please. Well, in about 1978, I was one of those that volunteered. I graduated from the University of Nebraska in 1978 and was commissioned as a second lieutenant. I have a degree in animal science. And some say that that's why I joined the Marine Corps, because I have a degree in animal science. I served for 20 years, retiring as a major. I retired in 1998. And I'm thankful that every year I get to put my uniform on. Some say it's because I can still fit into it. And I get to celebrate the Veterans Day at Oakland during their celebration. But I'm especially thankful that I got to come here today to share this day with you. It happens that I am related to 3 of your teachers here. My sister, Mrs. Ray, who I understand outranks me because I've heard through the grapevine that she has a title of the general. And I'm not sure if that's official or not, but she does outright. But she's also much, much older than I am. My niece, Mrs. Loftus, is also a teacher here. And I am Miss Islip's stepdad. She calls me her bonus dad. Now I'm going to segue a little bit and talk about being in this uniform. I get to wear it about once a year. And I just want to say a few things about this uniform. It's probably the most recognizable service uniform in the United States, and possibly the world. There's no doubt when you see this uniform, you recognize it as belonging to a Marine and the Armed Forces of the United States. I'm going to step out here and talk about this a bit here. On my trousers is a stripe. And it's referred to as the blood stripe. It's worn by officers and non-commissioned officers in the Marine Corps. And it was placed on the uniform in memory of those Marines who died storming the castle at Chapultepec in 1847. I have in the military, it's not a hat, it's called a cover. And on the cover is a embroidered 4-point emblem. And it's called a quatrefoil. Now, the quatrefoil, they say, during the War of 1812, when there were ship-to-ship fighting, that officers wore a braided rope on the top of their hat, on the top of their cover, so that sharpshooters up in the riggings of the ships would recognize them as officers and wouldn't shoot their own officers. That is, I think, the traditions of the Marines. Now, whether this is tradition, lore, or it's actual fact, we use it to our advantage, and it's mostly tradition. Now, up to this point, I know some of the younger guys have probably seen this setting up here and seen me carry it in. And everything up to this point may have been blah, 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 blah coming out of my mouth. And all you see is, I wonder if that sword is real. I wonder if he's used that sword. No, it's not a real sword. It is a ceremonial sword. It's a Mameluke sword issued to officers in the Marine Corps. And it was given to Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon at the Battle of Chapultepec. He had traveled 600 miles across it wasn't the Battle of Chapultepec, it was when he took the city of Durnan. Traveled 600 miles coming in the back door during the Barbary Wars and captured the city, helped to capture the city. And this was in Tripoli. Now, if you know the words to the Marine Corps hymn, it is from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. So Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon was awarded the Mameluke sword. Mine was issued to me in 1978, and it is a ceremonial sword. We only use it during parades. But and if you have any questions about this later on, just come up and I'd be happy to answer those. One more thing, I added late, and this is not a Marine Corps fighting knife. It's not a K-bar, but I think it's interesting. It is a bolo knife used by the Negrito tribesmen in the Philippines. And while I was in the Philippines, I got to attend jungle survival training. I didn't give you these, it's like everything, I got to pay for it. And so, but it was a bolo knife that I took into the jungle during jungle survival training. Now it's interesting because this is the blade is made out of a Jeep spring. It's hardened steel, so they make them out of a Jeep spring. Wrapped around the tang of the knife is carabao horn. A carabao is a water buffalo type animal. And they said if you just scrape part of the handle off and collect that up, and if you get a cut, put it on the cut because it'll stop the bleeding. So I'm in the jungle and I find out I was cutting something and got cut. They said, well, it'll stop the bleeding if you scrape some of this off and put it. So I did. Scraped it off, stopped the bleeding. Very, very interesting. So it is a knife from the Philippines. Interesting accoutrements for our in the Marine Corps. So now looking back at the ratio of those veterans to our population that we talked about earlier, you'll quickly see that the job of protecting our country and the freedoms we enjoy are left to very few. It's kind of interesting to see, and maybe a scary thought, that the biggest guy is the one guy by ratio is protecting all of us. I don't know if I want to hang my life on one guy protecting 229 people, but that's the ratio that your veterans are faced with. We live in a country where no war has been fought on our soil since the Civil War. So it's really easy to take for granted the freedoms that we really enjoy today. And all of you are probably really don't understand the freedoms that we even have. I asked that class, to Ms. Heislip's class this morning. What are some of the freedoms that we have? The first one that came out was the freedom of speech. And I want to say more specifically that would relate to you the freedom of speech that you exercise through your cell phone every day. Each one of you. I would venture to guess that everybody in this room has a cell phone. Raise your hand if you have a cell phone. Okay, thank you. Now, do I have a volunteer with a cell phone? Do I have a volunteer? Where there was, here, how about right over here? Yes. Is this your cell phone? Yeah. Okay. Can you use it? Yeah. Okay. Take your seat. You will. Look at that. The freedoms that we enjoy through freedom of speech mean a lot to you kids, don't they?
Dude, that's my phone!
How does that feel?
My mom's gonna kill me!
Lost your phone, did you? You lost a little freedom. How does that feel? Not very good, huh? Thank you for helping me. This is actually a prop from Miss Tyson. But it makes you think about what happens when even the smallest of our freedoms are taken away. It's kind of surprising because each one of you, that meant something to you, didn't it? Having somebody rip away a freedom. And now we're talking about the freedoms that the veterans have protected us from go far beyond having a cell phone taken away from you and destroyed. So today, please take time to thank the veterans for their service in protecting our country and all the freedoms that we enjoy living in this great nation of ours. Thank you, and God bless America.
We will honor those who sacrificed, paid the supreme price, those from our county here today. And Commander, proceed if you will.
Squad, rise and cover. Color guard to your station. Squad, join formation.
We honor those veterans from Burke County who have paid the supreme sacrifice, giving their lives that we might live in a country of freedom. Proceed, Commander.
Squad, stand, hut. Present, arms.
colors are retired.
Order arms. Color guard. Out.
Thank you all for attending, and the old word in the Army was dismissed.